She said that American soccer fans, most of them aren't smart. They don't know the game. They don't understand.
Gio.
That guy Gazpacho.
Bournemouth can take a lame gorilla, okay?
Right, did you know that Arsenal died?
These got me buzzing.
Up the Toffees. It's hard to up them anyway.
I'm just not even gonna comment on that.
Again.
Welcome back to another episode of Footy with the Boys, joined by my co-hosts as always, Mike and Nick. Boy, do we have some headlines to get to you today. We're struggling with the words to start this episode, but we will be running through the title race, which is continuing to heat up and stay tight here with our three main contenders. Manchester United and Newcastle stumble a little bit. Manchester United, we will have plenty of takes on what happened to them, as we always do. The relegation battle is just about as tight as the title. Who would have thought? And then finally, we will have probably one of the longest US men's national team corners of the pod history due to the crazy amount of Americans that just popped off this weekend. But we get started with our headline from the weekend. And of course, it is the trophy given out for the Carabao Cup. And it went to none other than Liverpool. And who scores? None other than Virgil van Dijk. He thought he scored in normal time. Gets taken back controversially. Then, extra time. He makes sure of it for Liverpool and their academy. Nick, this game, maybe talent-wise, was missing a lot of the big names, but boy, the atmosphere was rocking for this one. Seemed like Chelsea had a pretty good shot at a trophy. Do you think this is more of Chelsea losing the cup, or do you think it was Liverpool winning it?
I mean, it wasn't Liverpool winning it. Like 18-year-olds for half the game. Like what? In I've never heard of those players, and I think we're pretty plugged into stuff. So that was crazy. Chelsea definitely lost. This was an opportunity for them to get European football. I mean, Conference League, I think, if they would have won it. But still, like, they're not finishing top 10, and if they do, it's 10. So it's a really big miss by Chelsea. They honestly were pushing for that goal at the end of regulation, and then extra time. I don't know what the hell happened. Completely fell off. No, Liverpool did not win it. If anyone, Van Dijk won it, maybe, but Chelsea definitely lost it.
Yep. Mike, going into this one, Liverpool already had a lot of injuries. Gravenberch goes down early. I believe somebody tagged it as Klopp's kids versus the blue billionaire bottle jobs. And that is a pretty accurate description of what this game was. Not necessarily a magnificent display of talent and grace here, but a game that was interesting watching. And I thought it was going to go to PKs. It didn't look like there was anybody on the field that was going to be clinical. There was one man, though, that was rather the opposite of clinical. He was very wasteful. Conor Gallagher had a few chances here. Man, is this just a huge missed opportunity by Chelsea here? I mean, yes, the young players and all that, but they seemed the side that should have had some goals here.
Certainly. As Nick said, right before the end of regular time, Chelsea was dominating this match. They had all the chances, and Conor Gallagher was at the end of almost every single one of them. He had three in particular. He forced a good save out of Kelleher, who had an outstanding game, who's filling in for Allison. He is really next man up mentality embodied, and then he skied a few. So he's been a great performer all season. I'm not the biggest fan of his, but for Chelsea, top performer, and definitely should have scored to win this game. You said it was Klopp's kids. It was almost like Grandpa Klopp and Daddy Verge out there today. Klopp gave a hug to every single one of those players when they were subbing in. And it really seemed to be they were fighting for him. He believed in them. And it was enough to get them through. The man of the hour, Virgil van Dijk, just had enough. How big has he been the last couple of games? He did it against Luton, and he did it again tonight. He's not a star attacker, but fuck, did he have an impact?
Yep. And I want to close on this for this game, and then we'll get into our muchly anticipated title talk. Pochettino has Chelsea not doing what Chelsea should be doing. And this was a chance, although a bad season in the league, to get a trophy for his team. And it seemed like everything should have been in his favor. It is against a Liverpool side that, yes, is top of the table, but is missing just about everybody that you could point to as their star players or a lot of just key contributors. And he still loses to a team that really didn't have the star power at all that Chelsea has. Is Pochettino just kind of running the end of his rope here? Is it just a coach different here? And is this the final straw for him, you think, Mike?
I don't know. I don't know how big of a change a manager would have on this team, how much of an impact it would have. I talked to a few Chelsea fans I'm close with, and they said the same thing. I asked Poach out. They said, I really don't know. So I'll have to agree with him on that.
Nick, same question to you. Klopp got it done with kids. Poach continues to not get it done with the billion-dollar team. Is it time for a change?
Yeah, I think it is. Listen, a lot of people are on people's cases about like, hey, managers need time. Feels like, especially big six sides are firing them left and right really quickly. Mikel Arteta took time to come due. He had a great year last year. Before that, I mean, they choked out of the Champions League spot the year before. They choked in the Europa League a couple times. And there were people who were genuinely upset with him. That being said, throughout the entire time, I saw progress with the team and like I could see his vision. On certain matches, I see what Poch is trying to do, but throughout the season as a whole, I just don't think he's the guy. And if you don't have the guy, you got to like try hard as shit to find the guy so that you can actually commit to the process because, you know, settling for this mediocrity is going to get you nowhere. Investing these billions of pounds isn't going to do anything if you just don't have the right people in place. So personally, I think it's Poch out time. Honestly, I think this trophy could have bought him a little bit more time. But losing it in this fashion to a bunch of kids, I get it's Liverpool, but Liverpool didn't even play that well, missing a lot of key pieces too. I don't know. I think if he is the manager at Chelsea to start next season, then they're just not a serious club.
Yep. I think if your aspirations are where your pocketbooks are, I think it's time to admit that, yes, Pochettino is a great manager and has accomplished a lot, but is not getting it done here with Chelsea. Something is not clicking.
That was such a fire quote. If your aspirations are where you're at. Oh my God. Someone clip
it. Flip it. Get a little Peter Drury after he was on the Liverpool Chelsea game. It was only right to have a little poetry in this one. But we get into one that the poets will certainly be speaking about for some time here, and it is the closely contested clash of our Titans at the top of the table. A lot of alliteration there, but it's a lot of competition
Jesus
as well.
Christ.
It is Liverpool, Man City, and Arsenal who are absolutely duking it out for the title this year. Just about the only league in Europe right now that has a amazing title race like this. And boys, it is coming down the stretch. Mike, starting with Liverpool, we just talked about them winning the EFL Cup and what that will mean to them, but they have a lot of injuries. And it took a lot of effort and some late goals against Luton Town. They won for both sides of the Merseyside, with Everton being helped with that. But how long can Liverpool, with the issues that they're having with injuries, hold out in a battle that's going to be going the distance here?
At some point, they're going to need their guys back when they play legit teams. But against Luton, even though they go down one early, they didn't look like they were going to lose this game. They dominated. They absolutely dominated this game. They had chances in the beginning. Diaz could have scored a few times. Ogbene scores off a second chance save from Kelleher. And then they respond. And guess who it is? It's Virgil van Dijk. He's the captain. He's the leader. He's the talisman. He is everything for this team. He has stepped up in such a big way. Off-season last year, coming back from the cruciate injury, and he looks like he hasn't missed a step. He's back to his best. He finds a goal from the corner kick, and then the gates open from there. They find 3 more goals, and it could have been 5, 6, 7. They dominated this game. But once they face these better teams, they're going to need Salah. They're going to need Szoboszlai. They'll need Nunez. Jota won't be available, unfortunately. He's been phenomenal for them, but they'll need people.
Yep, I'm not gonna lie. Watching this one, right before Gakpo had gotten the goal, I was about to run to the Twitter for our pod here, say how why are we not more harsh on Cody Gakpo for how
Oh my
hyped up he
God.
was coming out of Netherlands right before that World Cup. He was crazy hyped. Right as I was getting my Twitter fingers going, he scores a goal, and he was positive throughout the game, but until he finished that, I had my doubts. So hats off to you, Cody Gakpo, for making me eat my words or my tweets. But Nick, speaking of tweets,
He was a little bit wasteful today. So yeah, you're not entirely wrong for that take, but he did respond.
I think the team
He
was,
fought
and then
some
the floodgates opened. So
Yes.
Yeah. I think with Luton, they do tend to defend and do very well until those floodgates open, and then it can be Luton Town more as how people see it. But Nick, the floodgates were open as hell for Arsenal this weekend versus Newcastle. If we're speaking of dominance and a 4-1 victory this weekend, the victory to talk about is Arsenal versus Newcastle, a big game, a game that Newcastle, they've matched up well with Arsenal this season. And it was not close this time. Arsenal absolutely outclassed them, a huge victory in their title race. And this is 3 games in a row of pure dominance. And yes, the first 2 games you could say aren't against the top opposition. This was, Nick. What did you see from Arsenal, and how far do you see them getting this going?
then before that was Liverpool too, 3-1 versus Liverpool. So, Palmer, if you can pull that tweet up, but Flags put the right word for this game: domination. I mean, 1 goal for Newcastle. They were fortunate to get it. This was completely incredible. I saw this stat flash across my screen as I'm watching the game. They're only 2-0 down, Newcastle, in the 60th minute, and the probability, their win probability, was 0. Like, put it up on the charts. It was even the commenters were like, "Holy shit!" Like, what is this? That was the best 45 minutes of football that first half that I've seen Arsenal play since probably the first half of last season. When we were at our best and it looked like we were going to win the title last year before winter break or the Christmas fixtures, we were on the front foot both attacking and off the ball. And our press yesterday, Newcastle couldn't take a fucking breath, much less try to connect a couple of passes or get out of their own half. We played the entirety of that first half in opposition side. It could have been 3-4 by halftime. We were incredible. Martin Odegaard, Jorginho, by the way, he came in and found every single pocket of space to pass balls into, especially in that first half. And Odegaard was finding all those half spaces. And honestly, part of it was Newcastle giving him. There was a big gap between the midfield and the defense. That was strange that they let Odegaard operate with so much freedom, but he fucking took advantage of it. He's been phenomenal as of late, pressing on the ball, off the ball, everything. So we were incredible, much deserved the goal. Unfortunate for Karius, honestly. I thought he played fine. He was decent. Probably 1 goal he wishes he had back, but aside from that, I mean, a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's gonna be a goal fest," and it was, but it wasn't Karius's fault. So Arsenal were completely dominant. Even the first 5 seconds of the second half, Kai Havertz should have had a second one. He had a phenomenal game. He offers something different than what we have at the 9 when he plays there. And the biggest story for me for Arsenal, I mean, yes, it's what is it now? Like 14-2 in our last 4 Premier League games. Like that's the scoreline. That's fucking nuts.
Crazy.
I think more, maybe 15-2, something like that. The biggest story is that Arteta, in my opinion, is starting to figure out how to play against those low blocks because Newcastle tried the same shit they did that frustrated us earlier in the season. Bruno Guimaraes, the fucking pussy, completely absent this game. Couldn't toss any elbows, and who knows? That's all he has to his game. So it was impressive to see how easily we were able to pick them apart. And I like this strategy against low block teams. I think we'll see it against Porto in the Champions League, and it's really, really important as we come in the home stretch of this title race where who knows if we're going to win it, but I 100% feel confident that we're going to be into it in the last couple weekends of the season. So, wonderful performance, incredible. I still don't think it makes us favorites. I think we're playing the best football right now. I think City has to be considered favorites. They're the champions. But overall, I'm extremely excited about how this team is playing and dreaming big about what could happen by the end of the season.
Dreaming big seems like the minimum for how Arsenal is playing. It's like a FIFA career mode when you take over. They are just absolutely demolishing teams right now with a lot of goals. But like Liverpool gets a trophy. Arsenal is scoring a shit ton of goals and absolutely dominating everyone that comes across their path. And yet, like Nick says, I don't know if either of those two teams are the favorite because it has to be Manchester City. They are just the inevitable in the Premier League. And it happened again this weekend. Although just a 1-0 victory, they get another win. But Mike, they got a tough stretch coming up. They have a tough stretch of games. On their warpath is both Arsenal and Liverpool coming up. Do you see them being able to stop a trophy-winning, fighting for Klopp, Liverpool, and a red-hot Arsenal here?
Yeah, it's at Anfield. That's a tough one to ask for. And we saw how they played against Arsenal earlier this season. Gritty match, chess match, and Arsenal edged them out. So both are tough. I don't think they'll walk away with 2 wins in those 2 games. It's a lot to ask for. But what they did this weekend was what champions do. You don't have to play your best, but still get the 3 points. And that's a lot for a title race. That's exactly what they needed. And they were able to rest some players while doing it. No De Bruyne. They're still easing him back from that hamstring injury. So he was able to feature late in the game, but not run a whole lot. Doku didn't start. Alvarez didn't start. So a lot of guys were mixed in and out. Kyle Walker as well. They tried some new things. And yeah, they didn't look great. Haaland had chances. He could have scored a few more. But defensively, they limited Bournemouth to mostly long shots, a few crosses into the box that got a little bit scary. But yeah, all I can say about this is if you get the 3 points playing like this, I still like their chances to win it.
Yep. Man City, I think, has to be the favorite until they're taken down. But this is certainly our best title race we have seen in some time since Man City and that oil money came to the Premier League. It is a sprint to the finish here for the title. And we will see who ends up on top. Let us know in the comments who you think are going to end up on top. But of course, the title race is one thing, but there is another race in the league, and that is for European spots. And some teams took some tumbles here. None more notable than Manchester United, who has been on a great run of form. But man, is it the magic of Rasmus Højlund that they're missing here? They didn't get their miracle with another win. It's a game against Fulham that's certainly disappointing to lose. Nick, I know you're a great lover of Manchester United and when they're performing well, but what does this result mean to them? I mean, it seemed like they'd figured it out. Maybe not so much after a poor late concession of a goal after just being saved by Harry Maguire, of all people, in the 89th minute.
Shows they didn't figure shit out. They looked so bad the entire game. They know fuck all about what this team is supposed to look like. What they figured out was Rasmus Højlund. Rasmus Højlund just hit a purple patch that was incredible, but now he's out for 3 weeks, and who knows what he'll look like when he gets back. I still have confidence in him, but he was the man. He was firing in the goals, and that was enough to cover up for their other deficiencies. And without the goal scorers, their deficiencies showed again. Mike said it and was, I think, bold to call it out, but correct to do so. And we saw it again. Casemiro, I mean, just legs are gone. He is not a force in that midfield anymore. I'll give him credit, honestly, because when he was at Madrid, I don't think he was ever like the biggest passer, or maybe he just had guys to do that for him. He looks like real quality on the ball still, but he cannot run. And this midfield is getting torn apart on counters. Fulham had every chance to score multiple times in the first half. Man, you fought back in the second half, but they did not deserve 3 points. And really, their only good stretch came right after Fulham scored, and it ended with the goal, because after that, Man U kind of pushed for the winner, but Adama Traore came on and fucking bullied the entire team. So it says some bad things about Man U. Still, in my opinion, lacking a real identity. Still lacking some real quality, if I'm being honest. Kobe Mainu, I know he's looked good for his age. Bruno Fernandes spends more time on the floor pretending to cry than actually playing. Harry Maguire's forehead is your biggest threat outside of Scott McTominay. Like, come on. This team is. I am excited to watch the collapse. And the whole season has been a collapse, but there's been whispers, there's been talks of, oh, we're going to sneak into the top 4, yada, yada. Well, you're 8 points out right now. Not looking too hot. You're closest to Tottenham, who we all know aren't a serious club. So I don't know, man. I if you're Man U, I think you're praying that you can hold on to that 6th spot in the Europa League, because I think that might be your ceiling for this season.
Yep, that may be their ceiling. That was going to be my question, was could they find a way to sneak into Champions League? But with how inconsistent they've been, although they hit a purple patch when Højlund was scoring, seems rather unlikely they boost up that much. 8 points between them and Aston Villa. But still, Manchester United is performing better than Champions League incumbent Newcastle, who has dropped all the way down to 9th. Another poor result for them this weekend, obviously against a great team in Arsenal, but a 4-1 loss is never going to show your ambition to be that top side that they were trying to be last year. Mike, where do we expect Newcastle to end up here? We definitely put them at the start of the season right around that 4-5 spot where they were around Champions League, and it seems like they've fallen off quite a bit.
Yeah. I fell in the trap with Man U. I was gullible. I believed their results, and I don't want to do the same thing here with Newcastle. But they don't give me any reason to. So I'm going to say they're right at 9. That's seems like a good spot for them to finish. Maybe they could go ahead of Wolves. Maybe West Ham could leap them if they figure their shit out. But right in that area, 9, 10, something like that sounds really good. And I'll tell you what I think about them. And I'll start with the Arsenal game. They're terribly defensive. They're terrible defensively. So bad. And that's what made them so good last year. That back line was a fucking unit, a stone wall. And they're so bad. Let me read you the results since December. They conceded 3 goals against Everton, 4 goals against Tottenham, 3 against Nottingham Forest, 4 against Liverpool, 4 against Luton, 2 against Bournemouth, 4 against Arsenal. They're leaking in goals at an unreal rate. And without Isak for a lot of those games, and their attackers scoring goals, they can't compensate. They can't score at the same rate that they're leaking them in. So they're just absolutely in shambles. Apart from leaking in goals, they lack an identity in the back line. They can't stay together as a unit, and 1v1, they're terrible. They try to have Livramento play this game against Saka. They thought what he offered would match up better than what Dan Burn would provide as a 6'5 left back. I get that. It makes sense on paper, but he didn't stand a chance. Saka embarrassed him on one time and found a good goal. So really poor. And I don't expect them to have a crazy resurgence the last couple of games of the season.
No. And Newcastle last year made their money off of being a stout defensive team. They have lost their identity. Mike, that is not leaking goals. These 4, all those goals being allowed in. This is a flood. Somebody call fucking Noah here. We need an ark to save this team because they are allowing in goals like none other. They need to figure it out defensively.
Flag is on fire with these little one-liners, bro. It's like he's cooking.
We
need a compilation.
I don't see any way that Newcastle, though, realistically pass up Brighton. Although Brighton have been inconsistent at best, and a tough result against Everton this weekend. Going into it, I think they got lucky to get that 1 point, but I don't see them passing them. I think Wolves have better results Manchester United just has a bit of a gap. I don't know where Newcastle goes from here to really find themselves up the table or where they want to be. But
answer me this, Flags. On this theoretical arc, is Eddie Howe getting one of the two spots, or is he being left to sink?
He's listen. If he's not making that way up, he is certainly drowning. There is no shot that with all the money invested and what they're looking for, they're going to be taking a drop from Champions League to nothing in Europe, especially with FIFA financial fair play. Not going to cut it. But there are still people who are involved in that Champions League shout, and it is Aston Villa and Newcastle. And if you're Tottenham, you're feeling the pressure right now. You're that big name club, and Aston Villa was supposed to somewhat fade down the stretch. They have not faded maybe as much as Spurs would have wanted them to. They are still holding on to that 4th position. A big win versus Nottingham Forest. Got a little bit sketchy, a little bit late into that one. But, man, Nick, Aston Villa are not going away, and Tottenham don't seem like they're going to run up and take that spot. Is this Aston Villa's spot to lose, or do you still give it to Tottenham and their Big Six name?
Yeah, I mean, it's just two fucking choke artists battling it out. Who's gonna lose it? You know what I mean? Like, I don't think either of these teams are gonna win it, and if they do, they'll earn my respect because it's not in Tottenham's DNA for sure, and I don't see it in Unai Emery's DNA. So, I don't know. It's a tough one. I do think Aston Villa played some incredible attacking football this weekend. They were, I thought, the second most attractive team outside of Arsenal as far as their form this past weekend. And yeah, 2 goals leaked in. They have some injuries in the back line. But as Unai said, you can't make excuses. This is you're trying to build a winning culture. So I would give the edge to Aston Villa. I think Tottenham knows they're in a race right now. And in fact, they're 5 points out of the top 4 right now. I know they have a game in hand, but I'd rather have the points in the game. You know what I mean? So it's going to be a serious one for that top 4 spot, and I do think it's going to be just those 2 teams. I don't think Man U gets themselves involved, as I said earlier. Yeah, it's going to be actually a pretty fun watch for who finishes 4th. Personally, cheering for Villa.
Yeah,
does it matter that much because there's likely 5 Champions League spots this year?
I think so.
I don't think you want to bank on that.
Won't that 5th spot also still be like playing in?
I do not know. I would have to look into that.
I think that's right. I think like they do like the play-in parts that happen in the Champions League. I mean, I'm sure the Premier League team would be favored. So, but still, it's early in the season.
Nothing funnier than Tottenham sneaking into the Champions League in the 5th slot just to lose a play-in game versus some Scandinavian champion. That would be pure Tottenham right there. That would certainly
top 4, bro. It just sounds better.
Oh, it does. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think you want to be getting bailed out by all the other teams in England performing well to get your spot in there. I think you want to make it sure of it. But making sure of it is certainly what we were talking about next. Something that you can't do until about the last game of the season. It is our relegation battles. The battle is already lost for Burnley, who lost 3-0 to Crystal Palace this weekend. Chris Richards, shout out to you with the game-winning goal. And then Wolves beating Sheffield United. Those teams out of it. Mike, we key in on Luton Town and Everton here. Mostly Everton. We know what happened to Luton. They got dismantled late by Liverpool, which certainly helps out Everton, but Everton did not help out Everton. Everton had a lead in this one, seemed like they were clearly on their way to 3 points, and a 90th plus 5th minute goal by Lewis Dunk takes that away for a 10-man Brighton to steal 2 points from Everton. Mike, this one felt like a shot in the heart. It felt like Everton got a win. I was ready to celebrate, and at the last gasp, it's taken away. How much does this hurt Everton here?
It hurts, man. I can't be overly pessimistic about it, though, because it's still a point against a good side. I'll be cup half full on this rather than half empty. I'll take the high road. It does hurt in the context of the match because it came so late and they were down to 10 men. Killer. But starting out this match, Brighton had serious chances. Simon Adingra in particular was giving us hell down that flank on the left. He's been in some serious form coming back from the AFCON. Great player. Danny Welbeck also had a handful of chances that could have gone in. But overall, good defensive performance. I like what I saw from the back line. All the boys are playing really well. Godfrey's been a resurgence at that right back role. I like him there. And Sean Dyche identified how he could really hurt Brighton in this match, and that was with physicality. The substitutions in the second half were crucial. Onana coming on and even Beto coming on gave Brighton a lot to deal with. They couldn't body up all that well. Onana was drawing fouls, winning balls, Decore as well. And Beto didn't score a goal, but played his best match in an Everton jersey, in my opinion. He was very positive. He was pretty decent on the ball. And yeah, he should have won the game. He should have scored the second goal. Definitely could have wrapped it up for us. But I can't expect that much from Beto. Come on. We got to be nice to him. I'm okay with the point. I am. But it did sting. I won't lie.
Yeah, a stinging draw there. Something that Everton has gotten used to here. It is 4 draws out of the last 5 for them. Sean Dyche wants to draw our way to safety here. Would be nice. Would be nice to get a win on the board for Everton here. Going to clean up the scores around the Premier League here. We already mentioned Palace. 3-0 win over Burnley. New manager for Palace, and they get a 3-0 win here versus Burnley, who was also on 10 men. But an impressive result for them, seeing as how terribly they played, I guess, recently. Wolves continuing their fine form with another win over Sheffield here. Just 1-0 with the attacking talent that Wolves have. You thought maybe it could be a bit more, but they get the job done, and that's really all that matters for them as they make their way into that Europa League conversation. Champions League bound is certainly a stretch, but if you're flexible enough to believe it, go for it. That would be if we're including 5th, 9 points out, which is just about the same as Manchester United from 4th. So listen, if we're stretching for Manchester United, why not for Wolves as well? And then we have West Ham and Brentford, which will conclude tomorrow, our weekend in the Premier League. We are getting into now everybody's favorite segment. It is the U.S. men's national team corner. And this weekend, if you are an American fan, is one of the greatest weekends that we have seen in a long time because just about everybody was doing just about anything. Let me read through the goal contributions here, and then I'll key in on some here. McKennie with 2 assists for Mike. You're wearing the Juventus jersey. 2 assists for Juventus. Johnny Football for Real Betis continues to be on fire since his move to Spain with a goal, and it is an absolute banger from outside of the box. He's something else for Real Betis right now. Might be their best player. Pifok gets a goal. Dest and Tillman with an assist, and Pepe off the bench with a goal. That game ended 7-1 for PSV. So the Americans are cooking there and getting used to some goals. You'll love to see that. Paxton Aronson gets his career started in Netherlands for Vitesse with a goal today. Good to see Paxton Aronson. He was the CONCACAF young player to watch, winning all the awards as a young player. So certainly somebody now in a better situation than at Frankfurt, somebody to watch out for. And I mentioned this before, but Chris Richards gets his first Premier League goal using that big throw he has to head the ball in for Crystal Palace, put them ahead. You love to see it. He got his first goal for the U.S. in the Nations League, now his first goal in the Premier League. Love that guy. And more goals from our striker finally. Balogun gets a goal, a well-deserved goal, battling with the defender down the line. Beautiful finish. Missed a penalty later. Luca Della Torre also with an assist. He continues his fine form. The midfield for the U.S. team right now is stacked in terms of form, stacked in terms of talent. It is a deep room. It's going to be competitive to get onto even the roster, no matter how good you're playing or how talented you are. Speaking of that, who probably will be left off just because of all this form is Gianluca Busio, who in the second division of Italy right now for Venezia, on their way up to promotion potentially, and he has been playing very well, got another assist this weekend. And then down in Mexico, Cade Cowell with his blonde mullet gets his first Liga MX goal. A nice finish for him. And then Brandon Vasquez continues his fine goal-scoring form. Man, it's going to be tough to cut this Copa America squad up. But the boys are absolutely buzzing. And the big question I have is, Nick, you tweeted this out, but is the correct midfield for the U.S. men's national team at this point Johnny Football at the 6, Weston McKennie, and Gio Reyna? Or should Malik Tillman, Tyler Adams immediately off an injury, Yunus Musa make their way into that?
That's the one I would go with. I go Johnny, Weston, and then Gio. That's what I think is gonna provide the best. I think Weston and Johnny are the two most informed Americans maybe in the world at the moment. Even with Pulisic playing extremely well, Pulisic obviously better, but just form wise, like those two guys are on fire. So I don't see how you leave them out of the starting 11. Gio's a hotter take. Obviously, we've covered a lot of the shit that he's having to go through. So in my head, it's the talent. And honestly, I don't think he will be that starting 10. I don't know if he puts like a De La Torre or a Musa or whatever you want there. I don't think it's going to be Tyler Adams. But honestly, I see Adams more than Gio just because we know Berhalter and Gio's relationship. I don't think that Gio's done anything to convince him that he absolutely needs to start, maybe through fault of his own, maybe not. But that'd be the midfield three that I'd go with. If it ends up being Johnny, Wesson, and Malik, I'd also be very happy with that. Honestly, at the moment, it doesn't feel like Greg can go wrong unless he does some Greg Triple G bullshit, like starts Jackson Ewell or some dumbass move like that. So I think it's a good spot to be in. But personally, that's the three I'd go with. And if it is the three that we see, semis? Copa America? I think that'd be a great run.
I think the U.S. certainly... This may be the most in form I've ever seen the U.S. team with the talent they have. Yes, MLS form in the past with other teams. They've had some fine form and players coming in, but you can make a full 11 of just players who are extremely talented and are on the form of their life right now. I mean, it is a crazy, crazy amount of talent that Greg Berhalter will have to choose from. Mike, Nick keyed into something there that I want to ask you about. Gio Reyna certainly does not have the benefit of the doubt from Greg Berhalter with all their history, and certainly without playing, that does not help his case. Malik Tillman has been absolutely killing it in Netherlands, has been a star for them. Peter Bosz, PSV's manager, has said he is remarkable. He said he's an absolute game changer, the best player on the field at times. And in the Champions League, versus Dortmund, he was making some huge, huge chances, was a star player for them. Is it time that maybe Tillman, based off his form and being able to play, gets his chance above Gio? Or do you think that talent level that Gio has and that ceiling is just enough to keep Gio in that driver's seat?
I think you need to give Tillman a real shot, because if not now, then when? He's playing great ball. He's playing a crucial role in this team that's performing in Champions League and absolutely running away with Eredivisie. So definitely, I like playing guys based off form. Cardoso should be in there as our 6. Weston is playing phenomenal, and Tillman definitely deserves it. You're right. Gio offers something that no one else in the roster can, but you got to give dudes minutes who are playing. So, yeah, give me those 3. I love it.
We're going form for our starting 11, and we certainly can with the amount of goals and assists that have been plopped in by our players. Jedi Robinson also with another great performance. Just shout him out. I saw him getting a lot of love this weekend
New
for his
haircut.
performance against Manchester
Haircut
United.
looks horrible.
He shaved that shit.
It's so bad.
Jedi
You like the
Robinson,
blonde?
I don't think has really
I don't know,
ever
but
had the most amazing haircuts.
he looks like
But he's
Mason
playing
Greenwood.
great ball. As long as he keeps playing ball, do whatever you want with the hair, man. Chris Richards.
He makes a lot of choices.
That's a head of hair.
That
Chris
is a head of hair.
Richards.
He said he grew out his afro so that he could get some better headers, and that he certainly did with a header leading to a goal. Mike, close this out.
God bless you. God bless you. God bless the Premier League. To the hell with Premier League referees. My final little rant will be on the inconsistencies with English referees. We've seen it all season, but we saw it in a very particular manner this weekend with 3 almost identical fouls with 3 very different outcomes. First of which, Billy Gilmore versus Amadou Onana, straight red card, cleats into the ankle. The other one, Maguire into Lukic in Man U versus Fulham, an advantage play that leads to a yellow card. And the third in the Carabao Cup Final with Moises Caicedo versus Ryan Gravenberch. Not even a yellow card given at the beginning. VAR reviews it. They say it's reckless play rather than a serious foul. So a yellow card can't be issued, and they decide not to give a red. That is some serious inconsistency. Ryan Gravenberch destroyed his leg and had to go off the field. Another major injury for Liverpool. That was a terrible, terrible foul. No sorts of repercussion. The refs have to do better.
Nick, give us your parting words.
A little different. Shout out to Patrick Kane, who just scored the overtime winner on his return to Chicago. That's fucking sick. He got like a 2-minute standing ovation. Shout out to the Chell boys out there. Also, MLS. Big up the MLS back this weekend. Enjoyed watching. San Jose Earthquakes with some late heartbreak in Dallas, but I thought we looked decent. So excited for the new season. Other than that, as always, up the Arsenal. Excited for these last couple months.
Yep. You know who looked great is Miami as well. They got a big win to start off their season. We will cover
They're
all
kicking
that
up
and
now.
more. They
They
kicking
play
off.
LA Galaxy.
Watch.
Until next time, we will see you there. Peace.
You're up the tops.